So it's 3 days since the election in 2009, and I am angry, I am scared, and I am very deeply affected by what happened in Maine. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is about an even bigger concern, a far bigger fear, a far bigger point of my anger. It's not directed to the people who voted against gay marriage in Maine. It's directed at us. I think we have a really big problem with our apathy and complacency within the LGBT community in America right now. So I was over at the protest in San Francisco the day after Maine passed Question 1 to reject the law of same-sex marriage. And at the protest there were about 100 people just kind of hanging around the Harvey Milk Plaza, which is a little plaza area at the Castro in San Francisco. No streets were closed down. There were not enough people to be able to do that. In fact, while the 100 people were protesting, and it probably wasn't even 100 people, there were a lot of people that were coming from the underground where the train station is and then walking past the protest, people just crossing the street, people walking down the sidewalks, people in bars having drinks, people at restaurants having their meals, people just getting over to their home, transporting from point A to point B. And those people far outweighed the people who were protesting the fact that gay people lost their rights to marry the person that they would love in another state, just like what happened in California the year before. And I wouldn't attack those people. I'm incredibly concerned and fearful because we're having this kind of attitude right now. I just don't get it. But you know what? I did get it 2 years ago because I accepted the fact that I was a second-class citizen. I accepted the fact that I'm going to live a life where I'm probably going to be hanging out in bars for many of those years, having fun, because I didn't have the fun that I couldn't have when I was a teenager because I felt too scared to come out as a gay person because of the hostility of the homophobic environments that many people still live through when they're kids. So I accepted that, and I knew that maybe I'll have a boyfriend, and maybe it'll become a partner, and maybe we'll share a life, but it would never be marriage, and we would never be integrated into the rest of society. And we would just have our own ghetto lives, our own lives, separate from everyone else. It's as if it was ingrained within our minds that we could be separate but equal, but that's okay. And you know what? I actually believed it, and I definitely had that kind of mentality in my head. I don't anymore. And the reason why is Prop 8 scared the living fucking shit out of me. I'm going to go back to the real point when I woke up, and that point was when the California Supreme Court ruled in favor of gay marriage back in May of 2008. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was an equal citizen of America. Man, it was amazing. It was like the sun finally was rising from the hills. And I felt equal. I really felt equal. Here I am at my office, sharing, another office with another person amongst a whole bunch of other people on my team. And I'm just like them now. I can do everything they can do. I can participate in all the things that they participate, and the government recognizes me along with everyone else. And it felt so wonderful. So when I saw this looming ballot measure, Prop 8, coming into the distance, I was scared. I was definitely scared. And then when it passed that night, it was like the biggest sucker punch I've ever experienced in my life. But the reason why it felt like a sucker punch is because I was feeling equal at the time. Had a couple of years ago, I was still in my separate but equal mentality. I'm just going to live a separate life and everyone else lives their own, better straight life. Then maybe it wouldn't have mattered to me too much. But it did matter to me. And the main thing matters to me just as much, if not even more, because the second time something that happens like this is far worse than the first time, because if a second time happens, then there can be a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time, and as many times as it can happen until we have a really pervasive problem in America. And that's why I am very, very concerned about what happened in Maine, and I'm far more concerned that people just don't seem to care. And I say seem because I really don't know if people really do care, but it showed itself that way that night in San Francisco. So one big problem we have with the marriage equality movement is that a lot of people don't really care about marriage. They're never going to get married. They're like, I don't care about marriage. Why should I fight for this movement? And the reason why we have to fight for this movement is because we're too focused on the word marriage and we're not focused on the bigger picture. The bigger picture is civil rights. Marriage is a civil right. So therefore we have to focus on civil rights, not marriage. We're too focused on the word marriage. And the problem with that is that we see the opposition. The opposition says we're trying to protect the definition of marriage. We're trying to protect traditional marriage. That's fucking bullshit. The reason why that's bullshit is because you take a look at the state in Maine, and guess what happened over there? The domestic partnership law was under attack with referendum 71, and now the public of Washington state found themselves voting on the right for domestic partnerships. They call it everything but marriage. But marriage. It wasn't about marriage. It was about domestic partnerships. We listened, or it wasn't the fact that we listened, but think about it this way. In their argument, if they're protecting traditional marriage, well, their traditional marriages are protected because we're going for domestic partnerships. But the problem really reared its ugly head, or the ugly truth reared its ugly head when we saw the results of that election just the last couple of days. 52% of the people voted for domestic partnerships. 48% of the people did not. So ladies and gentlemen, it's not about marriage anymore. It never was about marriage. It's about our civil rights as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in America. And if you only care about the word marriage, or if you don't care about getting married in your lives, and you don't want to be part of the civil rights movement because you don't believe in marriage, well, guess what? It never was about marriage. It was about our civil rights. And it's our civil rights that are being attacked. And if you think that's where they're going to stop, think again. Folks, it's time to wake up. It's time for every single American to wake up. It's time for our leading gay YouTubers to start vlogging about this right now. Instead of blogging or vlogging about the basic regular stuff, they need to start realizing that our rights are being assaulted. Never in the history of America have we ever seen a public vote to take away fundamental civil rights from a suspect minority class. Never. In the 233-year history of America, have we ever seen that happen? And it just happened in California. And it just happened again in Maine. So the point of this video is to really hone down on the big message. People think that we're living in a time of peace. And we saw that when we were protesting in San Francisco and everybody else around us were going about our own lives. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at a time of war. And when we're at a time of war, we have to make sacrifices. We have to spend some time for a civil rights movement. We have to spend some time and expend some effort and energy to make sure that our lives are defended, our civil rights are defended, and we get our other civil rights and truly become equal Americans in our country, standing up in love, standing up in courage, and in pride. We have to do this. If we don't do this, sooner or later, each one of us is going to be sought out. This video is not meant to discourage anybody or to put anybody down. This video is meant to wake everybody else up that needs to be woken up and to enlarge our numbers within the civil rights movement. So please share this video to everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me and watch me speak. And I pray that our civil rights movement is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger until we are all free Americans.